You're listening to the weekly Parsha Podcast with Ari Goldwag, recorded with Hashem's never-ending assistance in Ramat Beit Shemesh, Israel, 5785, 2025. This week's Parsha, we have two Parshas, Tazria-Metzora, and generally speaking, they discuss the concept of the Metzora, of the person who has leprosy. It's a spiritual leprosy caused by hubris, caused by being involved with one's ego, with gaiva. But I'd like to focus today on a medrash which speaks about a different concept, which is the concept of Zav. I'm not going to get deep into the concept of Zav, but we will get deep into the conceptually what is the teaching behind it, and it applies to all of us. If we can understand what it means, we can understand the depth of the idea, we can learn something very deep and take into our lives something that we can apply immediately. The passuk says, "Ish ki yezav mibsarei." It speaks about the fact that sometimes a person has a flow that comes from his flesh. And this flow can cause a person to become impure. Before I get into the medrash, which is going to bring pasukim from Yeshaya, which are very interesting and deep, I just want to talk conceptually for a moment. What does it mean? What is the idea behind it? A person has a ziva, he has a flow. It's talking about a woman or a man. Either way, it's a flow that comes. For a woman, it's blood. For a man, it's some kind of secretion, also from the reproductive area. And it's a flow that's caused by some kind of sickness, and it creates impurity. And I don't know if we're going to get to the medrash which is the next piece in the medrash. This one's rather long. But in the next piece of the medrash, it says that when the Jewish people stood at Har Sinai, when they stood at Mount Sinai, and they received the Torah, they said, Nasa v'nishma. So all of these kinds of sicknesses abated. There was no sickness. There was no death. Am Yisrael was in a different place physically as a result of their saying Nasa v'nishma, giving themselves over completely to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, saying, I'm going to do your will no matter what. I don't even need to hear what you expect of me. I'm accepting a sight unseen. The result was that they were completely pure. There was no ziva. The medrash says there was no flow, not from the women, not from the men. There was no impurity. There was only purity. Conceptually, what does this mean? As I understand it, what it means is that the blood of a woman or the unhealthy flow from a man in the reproductive area. So this represents the fact that a person does not use his reproductive abilities. Right? A person has a capacity to create human beings, to create children. The woman has a whole system that's created in a normal way, so it's the menstrual cycle, and the man has his own reproductive capacity. Now, when there's something wrong, when there's something that's running incorrectly inside of the human being, inside of their systems, so it creates a flow which is abnormal, which is tameh, which is impure. And that represents the ineffectual or the incorrect use of my creative capacity. And that's what we can say it in a very kind of fancy way, but at the same time, in a clear way, that's what it comes down to. And we're going to talk about seeds. That's where we're going to bring a passuk in Yeshaya. We're going to talk about the misuse of plantlings, of things that are planted. There's a correct way to use them. There's a way that Kadosh Baruch Hu created us, which is Hashem created Am Yisrael, which were called the matos, the branches, the shvatim, the branches. And there's a correct way of us being in the world. We are extensions of the root of the branches. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is that, the Nasa v'nishma. When we have the Nasa v'nishma, as we're going to see in this Explore, when we have that relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so the branches produce fruit correctly. But when we're not in that state, when we are not planting those plantlings correctly, when we are involved in our own will, instead of the Nasa v'nishma, I'm going to do Hashem's will, I'm involved in doing whatever I feel like doing. So the result is tumah. The result is impurity, disconnect, death. All of these things are the result of that. Okay, so that's in concept what we're going to speak about. And let's see what it means for us. Let's see what it means how the Medrash talks about it. And we'll see also the pasukim inside in Yeshaya, perek Yud Zayin, chapter 17. He brings here Zeh Shamar Kasuv. This is what the passuk means when it says, B'yom Neteich Tisag Segi. In the day of your planting, Tisag Segi. So, we're going to see different explanations as to what the word Tisag Segi means. The most simple explanation is, when you were originally planted, there was incredible potential for growth. L'sagseg means to be prosperous, to have a lot of growth. V'abokar zarech tafrichi. And in the morning, the seeds, they sprouted, or they were spread out. They're perek, which means to blossom. Okay, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu plants us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes Am Yisrael. He brings us to Eretz Yisrael. He takes us out of Egypt. He plants us as a nation. He gives us incredible potential. If we are nemon to the source, to the root, if we are faithful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to Hashem, to His Torah, to His commandments, to His will, and so then the result has the potential to be sigsug, incredible prosperity, incredible fruits that are produced, incredible flowering. But the Medrash also understands that in the very planting itself, the passuk is referring to the fact that there's something negative, something missing within the planting, at the very root of who we are as human beings. There's something that's wrong. There's something that's missing. There's dross. Says the Medrash, B'yom Neteich, B'yom Shenatati Eschem Li La'am, Asisim Pseilis, when I planted you as my nation, which means Hashem gave us as the Eitz Yosef explains, when Hashem gave us the luchos, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving the 10 Commandments hewn in stone, along with the entire Torah. The first set of luchos, the first set of the tablets, had not just the 10 Commandments, but all of the entire Torah, both Biksav, Baal Peh, the written, the oral Torah, the Gemara, the Medrash, everything was miraculously written there. Hashem is giving that miraculous document to Moshe Rabbeinu, set in stone, so that Am Yisrael would receive it. Charis ala luchos, it's hewn into the stone. Chazal say, Cherus, we'll see that in the Medrash. There was a freedom from the Malach HaMavis, from the angel of death, a freedom from ourselves, from our egos. It was being given on that day, but instead of receiving the luchos, the tablets on that 40th day, after the incredible experience at Har Sinai, Mount Sinai, instead, what did we do? We did asisam pseilis. We did something, we were involved in the dross. We made the egel hazav. We made the golden calf on that day. Kemadat Amar. Sigim kesef hoyu. The word dross in Hebrew is sigim, which means that when there's silver, so you want to get out the dross, the impurities. So the word lisagseg, which I explained to mean to be prosperous. When you were planted, there was a prosperity there. There was a tremendous potential there for growth. But the word lisagseg also has within it the word sig, which means dross. There was dross there. There was our humanity there. There was our ego there. There was the Egel Azav, the golden calf, which was really about, hey, where's Moshe? We don't have a leader. Where's our access to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? We spoke about this a few months ago already. Where's our access to Hashem? And Am Yisrael sins in trying to grab that access in the wrong way through an idol. So there was a mistake there. So we're going to talk about dross because we're talking about zav. And the zav is the flow which is unhealthy, which is a result of an unhealthy attitude about our potential, about the seeds that we're going to plant, whether it's to create our children or whether it's to be effective in the world, to produce in this world. There's a dross that's there, and that comes back to our mistakes and our egos that have the potential to ruin our relationship with Hashem. But before we continue, I'd like to read to you from the pasukim in Yeshaya. What's the context? It's really quite interesting. So we're in perek Yud Zayin, passuk Yud Aleph, the 17th chapter of Isaiah, 11th passuk, 11th verse. And in the pasukim here, the context is that it's talking about how Am Yisrael, instead of seeing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Hashem, that God Himself is the one who's going to save us, the one who's going to take care of us, the one who we are to look to, and we're supposed to try to align our will with His will. Instead, Am Yisrael did the opposite. We did what we felt like doing. And Am Yisrael, as a result, was going to be sent out. Our seeds were going to be spread out amongst the nations of the world. Our kids would end up in the hands of our enemies. And they would be forced to grow as weeds in the fields of others. So the passuk speaks about the fact that there would just be a few seeds left in Eretz Yisrael. It's referring to Chizkiah HaMelech. It's referring to the people of Yehuda. As the 10 tribes were exiled, there'll still be something left of Yehuda and Binyamin. Says the pasuk a few pasukim back from our pasuk. Bayemahu yishe ha'adam alaseyu. Ve'enav al-kadosh Yisrael tirena. So as a result of the exiles, as a result of what happens when we make that mistake, when we disconnect from Hashem, the result is exile. That's important to understand. If we are still in an exile mentality, what it really means at its root, people who are not necessarily focused on and wishing to come back to Eretz Yisrael, conceptually it means that I'm disconnected from the roots. I'm disconnected from HaKadosh Baruch Hu's will. Hashem wants us to be in Eretz Yisrael. Hashem wants us to serve Him here in the land of Israel. Conceptually, Golus, exile, is outside of Israel. It's in the place of the nations of the world where we are disconnected from Hashem. But what happens is we take to heart. When we're in exile, we have to stand up for our Yiddishkeit. We have to stand against those who wish to destroy us and convert us to some other religion or some other way of thinking about the world, some other outlook on the world. And so it causes us to be involved in introspection, to turn back to Hashem. On that day, when Am Yisrael experiences exile, so we turn back and we realize who is the Yeshua, who is the one who brings salvation. It's Hashem, it's only God, the one who created us. The eyes of the one who watches exile, who watches a destruction that's caused, whether it's in recent history over the last year and a half, or whether it's in a little bit further history, it's the Holocaust. But there's a recognition there, or we're supposed to take to heart. It's because of our disconnect, maybe from each other, or maybe from Hashem. And there's a recognition that occurs as a result of the exile. And it parallels the ziva, the flow, which is an unhealthy flow, which really means to say, and that's what the Metzora is who has leprosy, I got involved in self, I got involved in a misuse of my creative potential, whether it's reproductive or whether it's in my interactions with other people. I misused that. And as a result, there's a ziva. There's a negative flow, a sick flow that comes out, which is not natural and not normal. That is to awaken us and say, hey, why are we out in exile? Why is there impurity coming into our lives? Why did the person get sent out of the encampment because of his leprosy? It's because there was some ego involved. I was busy serving idols. That's what the passuk here says in Yeshaya. Serving idols, bringing animals on the altar to other gods, other ideals. There's idols and ideals. And as a result of these sins, so the cities of Eretz Yisrael are abandoned. They're destroyed. The mighty cities with their mighty walls, somehow they can just easily burn down, make fires that endanger us, or shoot rockets at us. But it's a reflection not of whether we're strong enough to protect ourselves. It's a reflection of the fact that we're not connected to the source of light, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Asher azvu mipnei bnei Yisrael v'hoisa shmama. These places will be left by the children of Israel. There's going to be desolation. Why, says the passuk, right before our passuk, which we're getting to, Ki shachacht Elokei Yishech, because you forgot the God of your salvation. V'tzur ma'ozech lo zachart, the rock of your strength, the one who really protects you. If I'm connected into HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I don't have to be worried about fires. I don't have to be worried about putting out the fires, both physical and figurative. I don't have to be worried about the missiles that they're going to shoot at me. It's only because I forgot who's the source of everything. So the result is going to be, when I forget Hashem, so the plantlings end up getting removed from their place. Am Yisrael gets sent out into Golus, gets replanted in a place of impurity. We end up having strange plantlings in the land of Israel. We have people who don't belong here, who don't serve Hashem properly, who are filled with anger and hatred and destruction. Passuk Yud Aleph, which is our passuk, B'yom nitech tisag segi. And I'm going to give what I think is the Parsha Pshat in the passuk again, as I started off. On the day of your planting, when you plant yourself back in Hashem, when you plant yourself as you were planted originally on the day of your planting, when I do that, when I go back to the roots, literally and figuratively, then there's prosperity. Then there's a growth that can happen back here in Eretz Yisrael, back in the Torah, back in the will of Hashem, back in the way that Hashem wants us to be. When I have the right intention, when I have the right action, when I'm back in the world of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's will, back in the world of Torah, in the world of Nasav and Ishma, so it brings about that my kids also, the new seeds that are going to come into the world, they also will blossom and bloom. As opposed to the fact that when I'm not doing that, when I'm confused, when I'm out, when I'm disconnected from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when I'm disconnected from Hashem and His will, and the Torah, and His land, so then the result is that I end up in a nade. I'm moving around. I'm disconnected. Katsir, disconnected. I'm lost. I'm lost. Now let's see this inside the Medrash. So we said that B'yom nitek tesag segi, within the very planting itself, there was something missing. There was a sig, there was a dross. There was a disconnect. There was my ego. There was trying to do things my way. I lost the Nasav and Ishma. Another explanation to Sagsegi Shigishtu Narcha. There was a mix-up in the path. There was, instead of me just following exactly what Hashem said, don't lo lachem Elohim acherim al panai. Second dibra, the second commandment. Don't have any other gods in front of me. Come to me directly. Don't look for an idol, not a physical idol, a golden calf, and not a human idol. Don't think it's Moshe Rabbeinu. It's me and you, Hashem says. But you get the path mixed up. There's a falseness. There's a dishonesty that confuses us. We cover up a vessel which is made out of cheres, which is made out of earthenware. We cover it up with silver, and then we say we have a silver vessel, but it's not silver. How easily does it break? You just drop it, and it's earthenware. Earthenware vessels break easily. It might be encased in silver, but the silver doesn't help you. There's a falseness. There's a dishonesty. I try to show a good front, but inside I'm not really committed to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm not really trying to do His will. I'm doing it on the outside. I'm showing up maybe to davening, daf yomi, whatever it might be. All the external trappings are there, but they're just trappings. It's not real inside. That's the mistake that I make. To Sagseni, another explanation, Shigishtun bi. You thought you could fool me, Hashem says. They seduced him with their lips, with their mouths they lied to him. Am Yisrael is a passuk in Tehillim, perek ches, passuk lamed vav. We seduce ourselves, really, but down at the heart, we know what we're really doing. We're seducing Hashem, as it were. We're trying to trick him and think that we really are okay when we're not really okay inside. We're not really committed to our relationship with Hashem. And what's the result of this? This fakeness, I'm trying to pretend that I'm serving Hashem, but really I'm serving myself. I'm trying to put up a silver front, but really inside I'm earthenware, I'm breakable. What's the result of that? The result is that Reb Chama Bar Chanina says it's analogous to somebody who plants, and he has this beautiful garden planted, and he comes out in the morning and it's gone. Some animals had come in, or some people had come in and emptied out the entire garden. Why? I'm saying, it doesn't say this in the Medrash, but he didn't put a fence around it. He didn't care so much to make sure that he keeps what he has. He produced the fruits. He's got that external thing going on. But it's really easy to break. It's really easy to break into. I'm not sure exactly what this means, but it's the same exact idea. It's the idea that I think I've got it all. I think that the externalities that I have changed me somehow on the inside, but they haven't. On the inside, I'm still that selfish person that I always was. It hasn't really changed because I haven't really started to really be looking for Hashem's will. Really, honestly, inside of my heart of hearts. My Yetzer Hara has a hold of me. I might do the outer trappings, but it's not changing me on the inside. Neid katzer nidnadtem aleichem kitzirin shel malchus, kitzirin shel yisurin, kitzir shel malach hamavis. The result of this, says the Medrash, is that because I disconnected from Hashem, so now I've become someone who's been shaken about, moved about by the nations of the world, by the difficulties in my life. These are all results of my inner fakeness. The external way of my being is not in line with my internal way of being. I just have an external, superficial way. And the result of Kitzir Shel Malach HaMavis, there's a cutting off of all these things that have disconnected me further, I would say, or I'm just experiencing difficulties, and the nations of the world are coming at me. And there's the Malach HaMavis, the angel of death, is coming at me. What does the opposite of this look like? As we said before, when we stood on Mount Sinai, everything that Hashem said, I'm going to do, and I'm going to listen, sight unseen. I'm giving up my ego. I'm giving up my gaiva. I'm giving up the way I think things should be. Why do I say Lashon Hara? Because that guy did something wrong to me. I don't like how it is. I'm going to try to control him with my words instead of the message Hashem says, don't speak about other people because I'm behind it all. I'm going to try to control everything in my life. I want taivas, I want my desires, and I want them now. I'm not going to do them within the confines of what Hashem says is correct. And that results in destruction and exile and negativity and darkness in my life. And tumah, impurity. But what's the opposite of that? When I say, Hashem, whatever your will is, I give up what I think is the way it's supposed to be. And I say, Nasev and Ishma, I'm going to do it. Whatever you say, I'm going to find out afterwards. I'm starting with zero. I'm starting with, I don't know anything. Whatever you say is what I want it to be. That's what happened there. Hashem says at that moment when we say, Hashem, whatever you want. Nasa v'nishma, whatever you want, that's it, I'm in. I don't know what it's going to be, I don't know what the requirements are, but I'm in. In that moment, Hashem says, there's no more death for this nation. There's no Malach HaMavis here. You're with me. I'm with you. Even though the Malach HaMavis has power over all of the creations of the world, not over you. Lama shein banai. Why? Because they are my children. Am Yisrael, when we say Nasa v'nishma, when we give up our own ego, we throw it in the garbage. And we say, Hashem, whatever you want, I'm going to do. That's all. I just want your will. That's shein banai. We become his children that way. What is a child? A child is an extension of the parent. Right? A child is the legs of the parent. That's the continuation of the parent. When we say Nasa v'nishma, we are Hashem's kids. Hashem, whatever you want, I'm willing to do. I'm willing to be the one through whom you are manifest in this world. What's the result? The passuk says, we heard Hashem's voice from in midst of darkness. We cut through the darkness and we hear Hashem's voice. Is there darkness up in heaven? The passuk says in Daniel, there's only light there. We have to cut through the darkness, get through the Malach HaMavis, the angel of death, get through our egos, which create death, which create impurity, which create all these negative forces in our lives, cut straight through that into the place where the light is. We want Hashem's light to be shining in our lives. Pasuk says, as we said at the very beginning, the Torah, when we keep the Torah, when we say Nasa v'nishma, it says the words were hewn into the stone. The word chorus, which means hewn, is also the same letters as the word cherus, which means freedom. I'm free from the Malach HaMavis. I'm free from the angel of death. I'm free from the darkness. I'm free from the impurity. There's no zav. There's no impurities and unhealthy flows. There's no sickness. When Am Yisrael received the Torah at Har Sinai, at Mount Sinai, there was no sickness. Because the sickness is a result, it's a physical manifestation of a spiritual sickness. Which is ego, gaiva, doing it my way, believing that it's supposed to be the way I think it's supposed to be. I'm going to tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who created the entire universe, I'm going to tell him how he should run it. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Nachman, Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Cheres Mimalach HaMavis. Rabbi Yehuda says, when we said Nasa v'nishma, when we said, I'm doing your will, Hashem, we got freedom from the angel of death. Rabbi Nachman, Amar Cheres Min Amalchus, we got freedom, says Rabbi Nachman, from the nations of the world. Rabbanan Amar Cheres Min Yisurin. We got freedom, says the Rabbanan, from all of the Yisurin, all those things that came in because of our egos, all the things that came in when we follow after our gaiva, ourselves, the way we think it's supposed to be. We got freedom from that when we said, Nasa v'nishma Hashem, I just want your will, I want to do it your way. It was the day that we received the Torah, we looked for Hashem's will. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Havesem Aleichem Maka Mageres Umateshas. The result of not serving Hashem properly, of not turning back to Him, of allowing that which is the dross to control our lives, instead of replacing that with Nasa v'nishma Hashem, I only want your will. What's the result? We are weakened. We bring upon ourselves a tremendous wound that weakens us. It's so powerful. How does it manifest? How do we see it in the world? It's these impure flows, which represent the misuse of our creative ability, which represent the misuse of our interactions with others. It's the tzaras, it's the leprosy, speaking negatively of others, believing that the way that I think it should be is the way it is, trying to control it. it brings about impurity. He has to go out of the encampment. You got to leave. You got to distance yourself. You have distanced yourself. You got to understand you've gone into exile. You've allowed the dross which is there in the planting to become more powerful. You didn't cut away the weeds. You got to cut away the weeds. And the way that you cut away the weeds, the Medrash is teaching us, is through the Nasa v'Nishma. It's through going back to the place before we made that mistake. Before we did the Maisa Egel. The Charas al Aluchos, at the same exact moment, we were about to get the document which would have freed us from death, from danger, from Yisurin, from pain, from the nations of the world being in charge of us. We were almost there. We could have had it. But instead we gave in to our gaiva, to our egos, to the negativity, to our belief that we know better than Hashem, heaven forbid, as it were. So to me, what I take out of this, what I believe the Medrash is saying and teaching us, and the passuk in Yeshaya is teaching us, is that our problems, when we see something's gone wrong in our lives, we got to know where it comes from. The things that are coming into our life, the exiles, the difficulties, the danger, we got to recognize that it's because we've disconnected from our Nasa v'Nishma. We've disconnected from the cherus, the freedom of the luchos, that which is etched into those stones, which is the will of Hashem. We've disconnected from what Hashem wants us to do. We've allowed ourselves to think that the way I think it should be is the way it is, instead of admitting our mistakes. And it's when we don't admit it, we get pushed further until we get it, And then we start to come back. We start to take steps to get out of exile, out of our disconnect. We come back to the Nasa v'Nishma. We come back to the Luchos. We come back to Hashem's will. We come back to Eretz Yisrael. And we start to recognize, we start to realize that, hey, I got to get out of this gaiva. It's going to kill me. I got to get out of my ego. It's destroying me. I want to bless you and ask you to bless me. Hashem should help us. That we should recognize and see and admit the places where we've entered into exile. We've been thrown out of His palace, where we've been distanced from Him as a result of our mistakes. If I face my mistakes, then I have a chance to come back. Hashem should help us to come back, to reconnect ourselves to the Nasa v'Nishma, making Hashem's will our will. Hashem should help us to get back in there so that we can experience a freedom, a cherus, which comes with the chorus, that which is etched into the stone, that freedom from the malchus, from the nations of the world, that freedom from the Yisurin, from the pains and the difficulties, and that freedom from death. May Mashiach come. Let's see the Beis HaMikdash built soon, speedily, and in our days. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful Shabbos.
This podcast was made possible through the gracious donations of listeners like you. For more podcasts like this, please visit www.arigoldwag.com or search on iTunes Ari Goldwag.